just scrapped apart. One of the advantages of making pieces out of stock, of course this was cast iron we had to order in. As I'd said before, I ordered in a second piece also from 2 different brands, and we're going to be making the replacement out of the other stock rather than waiting on stock, however that goes. So what happened? Few things happened. One is, in all reality, okay, Bert's showing the piece. In all reality, I'm getting older. I have all the tricks and general capabilities, but I am getting older. My eyesight's not as good, even with glasses. If I had more light, I could make excuses, all kinds of things. But the reality is, when you get older, even at the same skill level, which took a certain age to get there, you're going to start making more mistakes. I kind of feel bad about it because I'd gotten to the point to where I almost made 0 mistakes. I was there for a little while. You maybe make one mistake out of 100 one-off pieces. I don't think I'm that good now. I think I'm going to make a bad mistake on maybe 1 out of 10 one-off pieces, which is not that great. You got to factor that in when you're bidding parts a lot of times. And this was a bid. It's already been paid for, in fact. And I will be making, everything was perfect up to now. I mean, we were, tolerances of plus or minus 5, and we're within a half a thousandths on it. It's coming out perfect. Well, a couple things happened, and this is where I really should have backed off. One is, all day today I've felt stressed because some extra jobs have came in, more scheduling. I'm not just machinist. I'm machinist and shop owner. And some things I do because I want to use a little bit more of the finesse I've gained over the years, but you carry on regardless. Yesterday I was sick also. And so today I was just not quite feeling up to it. This side here we did. Radiuses matched in with the roughing, everything, it came out perfect. And I was going to show the techniques, and maybe when we redo it, I'll show the techniques of how we got the blending on the one-off manual machining just perfect. But I came along here, and this cut here, okay, I went to measure this cut, and the idea here is that there's a step in, and then I was going to step in the middle of this. So I'd make another little step in the middle of this square. This is supposed to be the bottom of the cut, and then I'd come back with the rounding end mill, and I wouldn't have as much to take off because of taking the step off there. Well, previous to this, I was roughing this out, and I'd roughed it all out there, and I had made this thickness here, and somehow I knew that it needed to be 612 finish. I wanted to leave 10 or 15 roughing with this cutter. It came out on a roughing cut. I ended up at 850, and I thought I had overshot my 862. So then after I thought about it for a little while longer, oh wait, it wasn't 862, it was 812 I was going to, numbers floating in my mind. The fact that I had messed those up and went to the wrong number and was still good, I probably should have quit there for the day. But I decided to push on, and while we're talking about mistakes, using my depth mic here, I came in to measure this depth with the cut before this, even though I knew I had roughed it to about 20 thousandths away. I measured it as being 100 thousandths needed to come out yet. Well, I plunged in 90 to do another roughing. I should have double checked. What happened was I had the 1-inch rod in here, and I had bottomed out the micrometer, and when I was measuring it, it felt like I was at the proper place when I measured it, but what I actually had was I just had the wrong rod in there. And my previous time, when I was measuring it, I came up with 1 inch and 33 thousandths, which I shouldn't have even been using this rod for measuring, because I used it for the step before, which was further out. And that's not in there right now. There. Okay, now it's in. But anyway, I came up and it had a perfect mic feel at 1 inch and 33, which, and I kind of played with the lock here a while back. It was binding. Trying to go down there next time, it was binding with the lock, and I'm like, why won't it go? And then finally it dawned on me, oh, I got the wrong spindle in here. Then we grab the right spindle, we measure it, we find out that we're at 190 thousandths deep, where finish is supposed to be 133. So now this piece is actually scrap. It happens. It's part of the machining. If you never have scrapped a one-off part, sometimes you scrap parts with all kinds of different ways. That is an advantage in production, whether you're doing it manually or non-manual, is you're set up to produce and do multiples. Your work being mostly set up is not ruined as much as it is. It's a sad thing. It's not the end of the world. I do have more stock. Yeah, the other one will work, but that was the actual mistake I made, and this is where I'm getting back to the age. Now, part of it is I could say more lighting in here, but obviously there's a gap in there. There's a gap in there, which now I've made it 100 thousandths deeper than it was, so what I would have been looking at before, well, it wouldn't have been quite as much of a gap, but the fact is, had I had younger eyes, I would have seen that there was a gap in there when I was thinking that I had a good solid feel on the micrometer. And since it was just a roughing cut, I only measured it once. Which, if I was younger and didn't trust myself, I would have measured it at least twice. So that's part of the, the arrogancy of age too. There's both the knowing things and getting arrogant with yourself. Up until this part was coming out really, really good. Really, really square sizes, just one of my best parts ever. I mean, even that, just everything was coming out just beautiful. And I knew that I didn't really need to take off that much, but yet the measurement that I measured wrong told me I did. So, and I normally triple check myself enough. I've already been, this is not all today's work. I had worked on it some previous to this, but yeah, and it happens. It happens. Lots of things to say about not making mistakes, how not to. The big thing here is, yeah, you're going to make mistakes, but how would you know? Well, if your eyes are failing, you're just not going to know. More light would have helped. More light in this case, not the room is lit well, but an extra stand light, something, an extra magnetic light. A lot of times you have spare lights on machines. That would have helped. Because I can see at that focal distance good with these glasses. It was the lack of lighting, which is one of the things you don't realize at first, but when you get older, it's not just focal distance, it's your eyes need more light to get through all the crud that's in your cornea that's gotten old. And so, yeah, so I scrapped a part. Sometimes there's scrap parts, no big deal. This one really did bother me. But it's part of you guys being my audience. We let you know when I scrap things too now. Maybe not always.